Good day, everybody. Welcome to Two-Way Tonight. Thank you for joining. Very grateful to have you all here on I would say, an intermediate news day. But there's lots of interesting stuff and some really great video to show you. And reminders, if you're not strapped in for 2 hours, please do, because you're going to want to watch Bridget Fedezi's show at 7 Eastern time on the Two-Way platform. So please stay tuned for that. Don't get winded. I'm going to run through the news with two guests, two great guests, by the way. Jill Abramson, a distinguished professor and also former managing editor, executive editor of the New York Times. I think that was her title. And a guy named Dan Turrentine, I believe, will join us as well. You may know him from his frequent appearances on the Fox News channel, or perhaps from Two Ways the Morning Meeting, but tonight he'll be joining us here. And we'll run through the headlines, and then eager to get your questions and comments. I know a lot of you would like this show to just be about Joe Biden's mental acuity and cancer diagnosis. And certainly if you want to ask questions about that, but you're not restricted to that topic. Anything you'd like to ask. And as always, we'd love to get through three new people on. So if you've never asked a question here on the Two-Way platform, and whether you're here for months or first time here, raise your hand. We'd love to get to you, and we will in just a moment. And now I'm going to ask if our guests are here. Anybody know the answer to that? So I want to just bring them right in. Let's see. I'll check myself. Dan was here, but now he doesn't seem to be here. So Dan's not here. Let's see if Jill's here.
Jill's back. Get on his computer. Dan was running to get on his computer. He was
all right. And I don't see Jill either.
And here's.
All right. Jill will join us when she joins us, but here's Dan. Dan's going to join. And was he planning to just listen and I've drafted him?
No, he's happy to join.
Service.
Happy to join.
All right. Here's Dan. Dan, unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind.
That is correct. I was just going to listen like everybody else because I'm a big fan of Mark Halperin and Two-Way Tonight. So I am I'm home here in New York City. I happen to be wearing it. And
getting ready for the Knicks game and your Fox appearance. You got a lot going on.
Correct.
But you also have a new show coming up. And we announced it yesterday, but tell people a little bit. Tomorrow night, you and your 4 colleagues who you'll list are joining me on this program as kind of your debut as a quintet. Is that 5 quintet?
Yes.
And then your show's debuting in a week. So just tell people about the group chat, who's on it, and how it's going to work.
Yeah, I think this is going to be awesome. It's 5 people, I think almost all of whom at some point have been on Two-Way Tonight. Batya, I think, was on just last week, I believe. And many of you know, incredible journey as she's gone from, liberal Democrat to, I think, what she now calls a liberal MAGA supporter. Emma Jo Morris, who I have gotten to know in the last few months, for those who don't know, worked at the New York Post and broke the Hunter Biden story, amongst many amazing talents. Robbie, I guess, is really a libertarian. He writes, he comments, he hosts a podcast. And Nina Turner, who was a surrogate for Bernie Sanders, state senator from Ohio. All of this is to say we span the ideological spectrum. So I know even since we announced it, I saw people on X saying, I can't believe you have Nina, or I can't believe you have Emma Jo. That says we hit the right spot, because we've got people progressives love and conservatives love, and some of us in the middle. And we hope to just bring a unique perspective and, of course, hear from everybody on here, the community.
And again, there are a lot of panel shows on TV. I think the three distinctive things about this program. One is, as Dan said, span the ideological spectrum. I don't know of another panel show that has quite the diversity of point of view. Number 2, it'll be a two-way program. So unlike most panel shows where it's all one way and you just have to listen to the people on the screen gab and never get your say, you'll be able to be part of the conversation on the topics they discuss. And then lastly, it's the only panel show with Dan and the same those people. So you won't want to miss it. So, Dan, thank you for joining. Jill Abramson is here. And, Jill, you haven't been here in a while. What's the deal with that?
Been busy, teaching, writing, you name it.
Okay. Well, we're honored that you come back. Jill graduated from the school my son goes to. So I'm always eager to get tips from Jill about how to outsmart the ladies in the cafeteria or anything else that she can provide. Jill, just tell people, I mentioned you used to work at the New York Times, of course, and run that shop. But just tell people more completely what you're doing now, and if there's content from you available, where they can get it.
Sure. I am teaching a course just completed on Trump's first 100 days. I taught it in real time, which was interesting,
And what school is that
at Northeastern.
at?
And I've been writing a column about the president and the press in the Boston Globe. So you can find that there.
Is that behind a paywall like most of the Boston
It
Globe content?
is. It's like the most impermeable
It really is. Of all
paywall
the
ever.
paywalls that I can't add Fox,
I
that's number
know.
one. John Henry, who owns the Boston Globe, is a genius and a very wealthy man, and somehow that combines to create the world's toughest to crack paywall. But they'll say it's like a year subscription for $1. So, you should just do that. Are you on social media where people can follow you?
No.
No. Okay. All right. I didn't think so. Again, thanks everybody for joining. Jill, Dan, and I are going to run through headlines together. They're just going to kibitz and comment and color comment and do everything they want as we run through the headlines. Some great video clips. One of our hallmarks here. My colleagues have found some really fun and interesting stuff. And if you'd like to get in the conversation, please raise your hand. All right. A lot happened at the White House today, and we'll get to that. But let's start on Capitol Hill. Number one, this morning it appeared that the reconciliation bill was on a glidish path to being passed out of rules and then onto the floor, maybe as soon as today. But some of the more conservative members of the House conference said not so fast. And some said the votes aren't here to vote today. And some said the votes won't be here this week, that it could eventually pass, but not this week. So a bunch of them, as you see from this headline from the New York Times, went up to the White House and met with the president. Here's number two, Washington Post. Same idea. Divided House GOP tries to push Trump's tax bill over the finish line. And number three, Politico, Mr. Massey of Kentucky, they can only probably lose 3 votes to still pass it. And Mr. Massey is one they'll never get. So reporters love to talk to him because he says colorful things. So Jill, where do you think we are on the reconciliation bill? Do you think it will pass? When? What do you think the status of that is?
I think it will ultimately pass with some changes. Not today, obviously. Maybe in the next couple of days. But it's tough, and we don't know what's going to be changed and added when it goes to the Senate. So it's kind of uncertain at this point.
Dan, my guess is you're going to agree exactly with Jill, but feel free to annotate if you have a slight deviation.
I do. I think it will pass. And I know we've talked a little bit about this. I can't see this crowd holding out if Trump and MAGA really put the blowtorch to them. They haven't done it yet. Trump apparently used some colorful language yesterday. I imagine is going to do or is doing the same right now. But maybe they'll hold out for 48 hours because the bill hasn't been scored yet. And I think some of them are a little embarrassed that they may vote for a bill that's clearly going to add to the deficit, but hasn't been totaled up yet. So just how much they're about to add. So maybe they'll do a few things, but I think, Mark, you had Saturday night. You may be the winner in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I shouldn't have hedged. I shouldn't have hedged this morning, but everybody told me it was on a fast track. But I think they're going to need the hammer of some forcing mechanism. And even though it's not the most powerful forcing mechanism in the world, the threat of losing their Memorial Day vacation, working district visit, whatever you want to call it, I think is what they may need. So I'll pretend I never wavered. It's going to be Saturday. All right. Up at the White House, lots happened. The president had a visit with the South African president, and it was pretty contentious. And we'll get to that in a second. The president went for like a Zelensky photo op redux, but this time with audiovisual aids. We will get to that. But I want to talk about number 5, please, Sam. This issue of the Qatari jet for Air Force One. And people said the president will never fly on it because it can't be retrofitted in time. And I've been hearing from folks, no, Mark, don't be so skeptical. This thing could be done sooner than you think. And the Defense Department today accepted it from the Qataris. And so it's now, American property, and we'll see how fast it can retrofit. Now, in the photo op today, the president took questions and he called on Peter Alexander. Jill, do you know Peter Alexander?
I know him a little bit.
Little
sure.
bit. Dan, you know Peter?
I do. I don't know him personally. We met once, but
Okay.
yes.
I used to be out on the trail with Peter. I know Peter pretty well, and Peter has had a contentious relationship with Donald Trump. Not maybe the most contentious, but Peter wanted to ask the president about the jet. Seems like a legit topic, and of course, the president's taken questions on it in the past. So I'm going to show you this, and then on the back half, Jill, here's going to be my question to you. If you were the NBC News bureau chief, how would you tell Peter to behave in this situation? Either the way he does or differently. Like, what's your advice? Not to call Peter out, but it's a challenge, I think, for any Washington bureau chief, which is if the president attacks your reporter, what should your reporter do? On the one hand, you don't want to sit silent and be attacked and sort of concede that the president has a point. On the other hand, it's not great to fight with the president of the United States because you become the story. So here's the president taking a question from Peter Alexander. This is number 6, please.
The president of the Pentagon announced that it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know, you to get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing, they also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back, you ought to go back to your studio at NBC because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that. His name is Peter something. He's a terrible reporter. Quiet.
That's my question now.
Let's go.
So, Jill, ever since I saw that, I wondered how I would have handled it. But I'm wondering, again, if Peter were your reporter, what would you tell him about how he did?
It's certainly not a problem, that only Peter Alexander has had. I would call it, I'd name this phenomenon the Jim Acosta treatment.
Yeah.
And, calling somebody a terrible reporter and a disgrace. I mean, he does that on Truth Social all the time. And by name, he's done it ridiculously to Peter Baker of the New York Times. But
it seemed like Peter tried to get more questions. And should he just be silent? Should he stand up for his boss? Brian Roberts, who runs Comcast, what would you advise the right thing to do professionally?
I would not have stood up for his boss, Brian Roberts. That's a little bit.
Should he stand up for himself? Should he say, Mr. President, I'm asking you a fair question, or?
Yeah, I am asking you a question that is newsworthy and the public needs information about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dan, I'm sure MAGA loves that. I mean, I don't need to do a poll or focus group. You saw Bernie Sanders plays that same card sometimes, right? He'll criticize the press, usually not from the podium, usually in an interview if he doesn't like the questions. And of course, we saw John Fetterman the other day say the New Yorker profile of him was fake news, and the liberal media was going after him. He used the Trump lines. Democrats who are studying Donald Trump, the press is not particularly popular with the left either. Would you advise Democrats to say, yeah, that's something we should take from Donald Trump if you don't like the line of questioning? And again, I don't know why the president was offended by this because he takes questions on the topic all the time. Would you advise the Democrats to adopt that pugilistic attitude towards the media?
No, because it's one of the things voters don't like about Trump. They may still vote for him because they like his, immigration policy or whatnot.
Well, but the base likes that.
Yeah, but the base doesn't win you general elections, right? We always talk about this. They can get you through a primary. It's good to have a solid base. But look, I think you have to be authentic and true to yourself. And I think Jill, being from New York and stuff, would probably agree with me. Trump has always been like this. I mean, even in the 80s, he would bully Page 6 reporters about his dating life. So I think voters see this in him. But if I went to a candidate and said, Pete Buttigieg, you're now going to get in people's faces and you're going to, it just would not look natural. So
even in the context of a nomination fight, I'll just say I disagree with you, not because I want people to attack the press, but I believe that if Democrats did this, particularly when there's cause, and I don't see any cause here, I really do think, unfortunately, it would be effective in a Democratic nomination fight, because the Democratic base doesn't like the media any more than MAGA does.
Well, but I think one of the more effective ways, Ronald Reagan would use humor. Barack Obama at times used humor. Like, you can mock him a little bit, you can tease him. I don't know, maybe I'm, it's my gray hair and stuff. I think trying to bully reporters into submission is not, in the long run, how you're going to win voters. I think if you bullied Trump, if you went at Trump and, he punched you and you punched back, the base would go ballistic for you.
All right. Donald Trump does so many things that we've never seen, and we've defined whatever it is down, because what he did today, the South African president, is kind of mind-boggling. Horrible host. I think, as far as I know, he surprised the president with a video on this topic that he seems to be, I don't want to say obsessed. He's highly engaged. How about that? On this topic of whether white South Africans are being subject to violence, something that the South African president denies.
He says genocide.
Genocide, yeah. So here is, let's do, there's a lot on this, but let's do number 10, Sam. This is the president springing a video in the Oval Office. He asked the light to be dimmed to say that South Africans are calling for the death of white farmers.
Here to turn that, I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. South Africa occupy land. That's who we are. So whatever you want to do, we can withdraw my membership from this useless parliament.
All right, we can cut out of this. So they screened the video for a while, and then here 11. Here's the two presidents reacting to the video.
You denounced that type of language in the video that you saw.
Oh yes, we've always done so. As government, as my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying, kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa. And that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia, they're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation.
Jill, I find this whole thing baffling, and I find what the president did to be gimmicky, but violation of protocol and rude. It's my sensibility about it. But what's your view of what's at play here? Do you have any sense of why the president of the United States is making these accusations and seems so invested in this?
Well, at the risk of being gimmicky myself, I am going to call what we saw the Zelensky treatment.
Yeah.
This was teed up, and ready to go and premeditated. And, he wanted to put the president of South Africa on the spot. That's obvious. It's certainly you know, it's an unpleasant tactic to use against, you know, a visiting head of state.
Yeah.
And the authenticity of, you know, these threats to the white farmers and whether any have been killed, you know, it's been called into question. So I'm not even sure, you know, what that dancing man is.
Yeah. Dan, I've asked you a version of this before, but if you were a consultant for a head of government or head of state who was coming for an Oval Office photo op, how would you prepare him for the unexpected?
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes, I guess the two times really Trump's done this, Zelensky and now today, you could see the pitch getting wound up. I mean, on the right, on social media, this issue, Elon Musk has tweeted about it, has been kind of simmering. So if you are a consultant, I would want to make sure that my client is aware these are the issues that are out there that you could, for lack of a better term, get sandbagged, or that he's going to try to use you as a prop. He is going to try to make a moment. And I would just counsel, you know, not do what Zelensky did and go at JD Vance and kind of try to argue or win in front of the president of the United States in his home, you know, setting. But I think it was the new prime minister of Canada was very good at kind of disarming, of making a point to stand your ground for your domestic politics, but yet also get out of it, compliment, and don't take the bait. But you would have to prepare. And I think what was so weird about that is he just went to the Middle East where he announced, we're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to kind of get involved in your domestic politics. It's about business. It's about deals and buying and selling stuff. But apparently in a region where they yell death to Jews, death to gays, you know, women should be treated as differently. I'm not just talking about Saudi Arabia, but the region broadly where he did big deals, as he likes to say. We were silent, and
Right.
But now this apparently is a bridge too far for him.
Right. All right. Again, if you want to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. We're going to do a couple more topics and then get to you. So please raise your hand if you want to be part of the conversation. Jill, I'm going to ask you both a question. You first, that maybe the answer is obvious and maybe there is no answer. I really don't know which it is. John King was a reporter for the Associated Press in 1992 when I covered Bill Clinton. And back then, the AP really was so influential in setting the agenda for the major newspapers and the networks. Because if John filed a story at noon saying, you know, Bill Clinton gave this speech and here was the lead, that's all anybody got. There was no social media. So John was sort of the first, you know, definer of what the story was. And sometimes we'd call in to the ABC News executives, and they'd say, well, here's the story today. We call from the campaign trail, and they'd say, well, the story today is, you know, Bill Clinton said everybody should eat apples. And we'd say, well, that's not the story. The story is that Bill Clinton said everybody should eat bananas. And we'd say, well, he really emphasized apples. And they said, well, no, the AP says, you know, the one thing, and we'd have to do that. So anyway, John was very influential. And John taught me that the first three letters of news are NEW, right? There's a bias towards new things. But this confuses me. There were weeks where tariffs were the biggest story, and every day it was about tariffs. And now the markets are not collapsing, and obviously that drove a big part of it, but there's still a lot going on with tariffs, and it's barely being covered. Immigration and all these fights with the courts and about their immigration policy. The Maryland man is still the El Salvador man. I mean, there's still lots going on, and yet it's barely covered. So I'm going to do some immigration news today, which is, I think, significant. But can you explain why tariffs and immigration, two stories continues to rage, are not on the front of the New York Times or leading NBC, et cetera?
I mean, I think one thing about the media that we all can agree on is that the audience leads. And I think the audience began, frankly, to become a little bored with the constant coverage of tariffs.
Let me politely interrupt you to say, how does someone in the New York Times newsroom know that the audience is bored based on social media, on clicks on the website?
And they know exactly how many people are clicking on which story.
Yeah.
So, and they watch that with an eagle eye, and it governs where things are played on their homepage and things like that. So, you know, I think it's in large part due to a sense of fatigue on the part of readers and viewers of news.
Dan, what would it take for tariffs to be front and center again? A market collapse or a big deal with Japan? Like, what would it take for that to be a big story?
I think that's the issue. There are no new data points right now. It is kind of a quiet front. The markets have stabilized because the tariffs have somewhat been pulled down and are holding steady. I think I think it will come back into the news if, as we get close to the 90 days, if there are no deals, because the question is going to be, is he going to put everything back on, which I suspect he will not.
Right.
And where is progress with all of these different entities that we have tariffs on and that we suspended with, or if the market seems to go into a panic or celebration, should it take off? Should the reconciliation pass? And it appears, let's say there's a real framework, not whatever it is they announced the other day, but like real meat on the bones where analysts could game out, okay, these industries may benefit 20-30%. Like then you could see like Morning in America conversation.
Right. All right.
Another factor, Mark.
Yes, please.
Is that, as we get closer to Christmas shopping time, or even before that, the story of President Trump saying that companies like Walmart shouldn't pass on the higher costs that the tariffs will bring to consumers, I think that one has some legs. And I could see Donald Trump picking a couple of companies, maybe Democratic donor companies, to start singling out the way he does reporters. And he loves a fight, and frankly, the news media loves a fight. So that could bring it back.
Another big retailer today, I think it was Target, said similar to what Walmart has said, which is because the tariffs are going to have to raise prices. I think
by the way, Tim Cook was in the White House the other day, and the rumor is the iPhone is going to be about 40% more expensive in September, and that apparently the story is Apple is not going to say publicly it's because of the tariffs. They're going to use every excuse.
Yeah. Except if you feel obligated to tell your shareholders, it seems like better politics. All right. Number 12. These are some immigration stories that I want to highlight. A judge, I believe in Massachusetts. I think that's what this headline is about. This is a New York Times headline. Judge finds U.S. violated court order with Sudan or sudden deportation flight to Africa. And it was Sudan. And amongst the things this judge said was, to the government lawyers, I want to know the names of all the people involved here because I may find them in contempt of court, and I want to know who to find in contempt. So now, commenting on this was Trish McLaughlin, who's used to be, before she took a job working as a top spokesperson for the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, was a regular here on Two Way. So here's Tricia, number 13, commenting on this judge's order.
Local judge in Massachusetts is trying to force the United States to bring back these uniquely barbaric monsters who present a clear and present threat to the safety of the American people and American victims. While we are fully compliant with the law and court orders, it is absolutely absurd for a district judge to try to dictate the foreign policy and national security of the United States of America. These are the monsters that the district judge is trying to protect. The contrast is brutally stark. President Trump and Secretary Noem are working every single day to get these vicious criminals off of American streets. And while activist judges are on the other side fighting to get them back onto United States soil. Before I turn it over to Acting Director Todd Lyons, I would like to remind the journalists in this very room to do your job. We gave you the names of these monsters as you have right in front of you. Now tell the stories of the innocent Americans who they victimized. I implore you to stop doing the bidding of these disgusting individuals. Tell the stories of the innocents. It's the American victims who actually matter.
So again, I've said for a long time that the media's failure to cover the victims and the stories of the victims of people who have been killed or attacked or otherwise harmed by people here in the country is ridiculous. And that's going back to 2016 as President Trump has talked about this issue. I also continue to be extraordinarily frustrated and confused of how little adjudication the media is doing and how slowly it happens when they do it about the allegations against these folks. And some people would say it doesn't matter what crimes anyone's committed, they still deserve what, until Donald Trump passed, for accepted due process for people in the country legally, even if they've committed crimes. But I think some number of Americans would be interested in knowing, are the allegations made about this El Salvador man, as I like to call him, and these people who Trish is talking about, are the allegations true or not? And I wish the press were doing a better job on that. I'm not sure why. Now, J.D. Vance did an interview with Ross Douthat of the New York Times. Jill, you know him, right?
I do.
Yeah. There's a long video interview, and I've had time to watch it. I only found out about it a little while ago, and I'm eager to watch it because J.D. Vance and Ross have something. I've recommended this before, but not all of you heard me say it. The interview that J.D. Vance did with Ross on MAGA several months ago is the best explanation I've ever heard of MAGA. It's one of the things that caused me to say my best line about J.D. Vance. I'll keep saying it. He speaks fluent MAGA with a suburban accent. It is just an extraordinary tour de force. And now he's done another interview with Ross, this one on camera. And here's a soundbite from that on immigration, number 14.
Cannot have a country where the American people keep on electing immigration enforcement and the courts tell the American people they're not allowed to have what they voted for. And that's where we are right now. We're going to keep working it through the immigration court process, through the Supreme Court as much as possible.
I want to watch the whole thing. But Jill, first just talk about Ross. He's a conservative. He's a brilliant guy. And he's not some MAGA sort of unalloyed, accepting everything.
He's an intellectual.
Yeah. Do you have a sense, either based on knowledge or just knowing Ross, why does he have this great rapport with J.D. Vance? I'm not being critical of it. I'm actually envious of it. What is it about the two of them that you think causes them to have such a fruitful conversations?
I think part of it is both of them are intensely interested in religion. As we know, J.D. Vance converted to Catholicism and, has thought deeply about all kinds of religious tenets and issues. And Ross is interested in that.
Yeah.
And I believe is a believer too. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of the bond.
Yeah. Dan, do you have any thoughts about those two guys and why they get along so well?
So I don't know Ross personally, just certainly know of him and follow him. He does not seem to be a bomb thrower. He's very, as Jill said, he's intellectual, he's thoughtful, and JD may appreciate that he can get an airing, he can get a hearing, he'll kind of think about it, process it, and even if he disagrees, he will do it in a respectful manner. And JD may find that appealing, and part of JD's brand, as you say, is being able to talk to the New York Times of the world and others to peel off some voters, to soften people up, and where necessary for support for conflict.
An additional factor may be that there's a very, very, I would say, negative long profile of J.D. Vance in the New Yorker magazine.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
Say that. I'm sorry. Say that again.
There's a quite negative profile of J.D. Vance in the New Yorker. Yeah.
Who wrote that?
I'm trying to remember. I want to say it's like Robert Packer, but I'm not sure.
Huh. And did Vice President cooperate?
I just sort of perused it because
okay. Is that just out?
It was out this morning.
Okay. I look forward to finding that.
So it's yesterday's news.
Exactly. All right. Bring you all in for a conversation. Again, you can ask about whatever you want. Just as always, after you unmute, tell us where you are, what's on your mind. Anthony, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Go ahead and unmute and tell folks where you are and what's on your mind.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, yes, it's dark here and I'm walking my dog. And yeah, and I just wanted to respond to the
Anthony, sorry, tell folks where you are, Anthony.
Yes,
I'm actually based in Yes, I'm in France, but I used to live in South Africa.
Yes,
in fact, I studied there, worked there, got married there, still have two sisters living in the country. So I'm quite still very much attached to that country.
Yes,
In
sir.
fact, I visited the last time in September for our 10th wedding anniversary. And I just wanted to say, I still don't, I mean, I agree with Dan, who said that he believes it was a bit gimmicky. I didn't like the fact that that the South African president got ambushed, but I think the mainstream media and the liberal or the Democratic Party at large are doing a disfavor to the public when they refuse to cover the fact that indeed a lot of people, whether they're white or even foreigners in South Africa, really are discriminated against, for simple things, even like the ability of getting a birth certificate delivered by the South African government for kids who were born there. They don't allow you to do that. And on the South Afrikaans farmer, it is absolutely true that at least every week, 3 to 4 people are killed on South African farms every week. It's absolutely horrendous. And I think the issue that Trump has is that he knows about it, and he just believes that the mainstream media does not want to cover it. It is really bad. I think I did post, about a week or so ago on the chat, like several instances documented, not just white South African, but foreigners like myself at the time, like being completely, discriminated. This is actually one of the reasons why I left South Africa myself in 2016.
Stand by a second,
So
just because
I don't know why.
Anthony, hold on one second, just because you're cutting out a little bit, and I want to get Jill and Dan to respond to what you said so far. So, Jill.
I guess, again, what's frustrating in the US about how this story is covered is that there hasn't really been rigorous investigation of what exactly is going on at these farms and whether the allegations of people being murdered are true. So,
Oh, they are true. Those I can tell you for free that are true. In fact, when my wife and I first got together, I was living in Johannesburg and she was near Durban in an orphanage. And so that orphanage was, so there was how do you call it, a reserve, like a game reserve where, sometimes tourists would visit. And there was a day where I was on the phone with my wife, and at the time she wasn't my wife, but I just heard someone banging on the door, and she ran, and it was the CEO's, the orphanage CEO's wife at the door, and she was like, "Well, we've just been attacked." And basically, what they'd done is that they got into the house, tied up the husband, used a drill on his elbow and his neck, trying to get money and guns. And the only reason why they survived is that somehow one of the kids ran away and got to the village to ask the security guard to come and intervene. Otherwise, the husband, the wife, and the 3 kids would have been killed on the spot.
Okay, hold on.
And my wife was 500 meters away from the scene. So what he's describing is a true fact. It's just the government, because I guess maybe they're embarrassed by that, but they don't want to cover it because it makes them look bad.
Yeah, hold on. I just want to stop and get Dan in. Dan, any comment?
That's remarkable. Was the attack, because you said it was an orphanage, because the owner's family had money and they were essentially robbing them, or was it because they were white? And you haven't said if they were white or black, and they
Yes,
were
there were
landowners and
volunteers.
they were trying to take the land back or take the land in general.
So I think the cover, if you ask me, the cover is the fact that South Africa is still a country where there's a lot of crime, right? But if I can promise you, every single time that there's a white farmer or a foreigner who gets killed, even the police is not involved. The police never come because it's not in the interest to actually catalog or say how many people, for example, have been killed. It's just how it is. I got to, living in South Africa, I mean, the violence and everything, you just accept it as a fact of life. But the other thing, if I can, I don't know whether you know about it, but I think it was 3 years ago, there was a law where
Anthony, I apologize for interrupting, but we've got a little bit of a shorter show tonight, and I want to get at least one other person in. So I'm grateful to you for joining, and I hope you'll come back. Thank you. All right, Eric, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind, please.
Oh, just unmute.
There we go. I'm in Chattanooga. I wasn't going to raise my hand tonight, but this really frustrates me because I've been following South Africa for many decades since they were the only Israeli ally when they were run by the white nationalists, and then the ANC came in. And I'm very disappointed in Dan. I'm not so disappointed in Jill because I don't think she is very, she's biased. But
thank you.
Biased in what respect?
To say that you don't think or you're not understanding that the African National Congress has been telling the population to kill whites, take their farms, and divide the land, and has promised X acres to people. And that has been going on now for many years. And the white South African farmers, it's went on in Rhodesia also, have banded together to protect themselves and have, I don't know what you would call small clan armies trying to protect their homes and their families from being attacked and killed and their farms subdivided. And that's why there's a food shortage in South Africa. That's why the utilities don't work. And I'm very disappointed in people like you who have world scope don't understand this.
Eric, I'll let Jill respond in a second, but what you characterize there is you're presenting a set of facts. You seem more familiar with it than at least I am. But if Jill disagrees with you, it's not a matter of bias. There's nothing you've suggested about bias. You just, maybe Jill doesn't see the facts or know the facts the way you do. So just stand by. Jill, respond as you wish.
There's disagreement about the facts from what I've been reading. I've been to South Africa. I'm not going to hold myself out as a tremendous expert on what's happening there now. And what I think the reason that this issue is salient is because of President Trump's policy of allowing white and only white South Africans to come to the United States. And I'm going to accept that there have been some true atrocities, but there are atrocities in so many places around the world. So why are we especially horrified and giving safe harbor to these people who are white?
Yeah. All right. We're not going to adjudicate it tonight, Eric. I apologize because it's confused, but thank you for coming on. Okay. Thank you. Jill, we're grateful to have you come back, and we hope you'll come back regularly. Just a small addendum, and I make the same mistake all the time. The article is actually in the Atlantic. It's not in the New Yorker about the vice president. That's all right. I think if as the old expression goes, if I had $100 million for every time I mixed up an article in the Atlantic and New Yorker, I'd be almost as rich as Elon.
And I'd like to point out, as a point of pride for both of us, that I think the first time I came on two-way, really a long time ago, was because I had written something or commented and was picked up on social media about Biden's decline and the failure of the press to cover it. And you covered it, I covered it, and
you did. I don't remember. I can't say I remember it being the first time, but I remember when you were on and we talked about it, and you brought, level-headed clarity to it. And I find it just extraordinary how many of our colleagues just decided, for whatever reason, I think I know the reason, that it wasn't a story. Anyway, Jill, thank you. Very grateful to you.
You're welcome.
Hope you'll come back
for having me back.
Thank you. Go spend $1 to the owner of the Boston Globe, John Henry, so you can read Jill's column. Thank you. And Dan, thanks for stepping in. And let's text manically during the game.
Got it.
Let me know what you're thinking. All right. Again, I want to remind folks, thanks again to both Jill and Dan. Tonight, in just 15 minutes, and I'm stopping in part so everybody can be ready for it. Debut of a new show. Put that up, please. Number 17. Bridget. Incredible talent. Everyone at Two Way just couldn't be happier. Bridget Fedesi, Real America, debuts at 7 o'clock tonight. Probably a little butterflies for Jill, for Bridget rather, because it's a first show. But if you don't know Jill, Bridget's work, please watch. She's just an incredible, innovative thinker. Do we have the promo that we can run? I know I didn't ask for it previously, but you got that at your fingertips?
I didn't cue it up.
All right, never mind. Anyway, watch that at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow morning, Dan and I will be on the morning meeting at 9 a.m. and we will be joined by Mercedes Schlapp, who is filling in for Sean. And again, Mercedes is amazing and awesome, and glad to have her there too. If you haven't yet watched my interview with my friend Joe Scarborough on Next Up, please do. You can watch it on YouTube on the Next Up channel, or you can listen to it as a podcast. And I say that because the next episode is coming at us like a freight train. So you want to get the current episode done. Next Up is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And tomorrow's episode, I've got two guests. One is Megyn Kelly, who on whose network my program appears. And I've never interviewed Megyn before. And if you would like to send me some topics you'd like me to cover with Megyn, please do. I'll be curious to know. I've got my own ideas what we're going to talk about, but I'd love people's input. And then Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, who's one of the most thoughtful members of Congress I've ever met. And we're going to talk a lot about Russia. And we're going to talk a lot about China and Ukraine. So please, you'll see that drop later in the day. And then tomorrow night, as I mentioned, back to the regular time, 6 Eastern time tomorrow on the Two Way platform and streaming live on YouTube. Dan and his 4 colleagues from another one of our new shows, the group chat, will come on this program. We'll talk about the day's news. You can meet them, see them as a crackling ensemble. The other thing that differentiates that panel show from many panel shows on television is all 5 love each other. They get along like gangbusters. And I can tell you a little behind the scenes fact about TV. Not every group of hosts get along, or so I've heard. So that's a little preview of what we got going on. In moments, Bridget's program debuts, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Mercedes joins Dan and myself on the morning meeting. And then tomorrow night, the cast, as I call them, of the group chat. And then, of course, more content, my interviews with Megyn Kelly, and Tom Cotton on Next Up. All right, that's enough programming information. 7 p.m. Eastern time, just 12 minutes from now, please tune in and watch Bridget's debut. Very grateful again to Dan and Jill for joining us, and for all of you for tuning in. For Mark Halperin and myself and others here, I say to you, have a good night.